Calvin Kattar took a really, really bad beating, and it looked to me like there were several points in the course of that fight that it probably should have been stopped. In fact, full disclosure, BC, I thought it should have been stopped in the fourth, and if not during that flurry at the end of the round when he went back to his corner, even though he had showed signs of life. We'll get to that in just a second. What was your sense of things about either the corner or the referee or the lack of a stoppage altogether? What should have happened?
I think it was in the gray area of you don't know what to do in that moment. And I say that because, okay, obviously he's taking an insane beating. And you know, more often than not, you would stop it in that spot. But again, he showed life in round 4. I mean, look, there was a window, a pocket, as I mentioned, where it looked like he's coming on. So I do support, like I'm the guy who's telling you there's no moral victories in losing. So if it's boxing and you're taking a beating and you have no chance to win on the cards and you don't really have big knockout power and you're not going to land the big shot, why is there a moral victory in fighting 4 or 5 more rounds and getting your ass kicked? There is none. But this is Calvin Kattar's kind of biggest shot. This is almost his title fight, right? If he beat Max here, I mean, he might not get a title shot next, but this is his moment. If you want to say this was his corner's chance to just say kind of what they did in the Pennington-Nunes fight, although I thought that one was entirely a corner mishap because their fighter is saying, I can't go. You know, Rocky Pennington saying, throw in the towel, and they didn't do it. That's different. In this case, they believed in their guy, in him having a puncher's chance. They saw something. I say it's a gray area because he's only going to take a worse beating. It's only going to take years off his career and maybe even his life. But this was really his mountaintop opportunity. I don't think Calvin Kattar ever gets higher in the rankings in the title picture for his career than this moment. So I didn't see enough where I'm ready to damn them. Could it have been stopped by the ref or corner? Yes. Even Dana White afterwards was like, I was having scary moments where I didn't know why this fight was going on. I just think that while it was near the edge. It was in the gray bubble, but it was near the edge of being too much. It still was in the gray territory where they took a chance, they let him go. Good God, somehow he finished the fight. It is what it is, Luke. Yeah, it's a bad beating, but it was his moment. It was his opportunity. And I think as safe as I want to be, and I do want to be, I want to be so safe. You do have to leave that window open that this is combat sports. You can hit a 10-run Grand Slam home run with one punch in the final inning. He showed enough life, Luke, in the biggest and most important fight of his life, where I think if it was ever going to happen, it was right then and there. Let him try it.
I mean, to say that this fight should have gone the distance is to argue that the greatest accumulated beating maybe in UFC history deserved to go to a decision. Well, I got a hard time justifying that. In fact, I can't. I don't know how you can make that claim.
Well, Luke, was there a moment in the 5th round? Was there a single moment where, because I think this is in round 4, before he came back, Kattar was taking a beating. I don't think he took that same beating in round 5. Was there a moment, a window where you're like, all right, Herb, it's time? I don't think that moment ever produced in round 5.
And certainly in round 4, a couple times in round 4.
Well, the problem is he rallied back in round 4. So that's my whole point.
But he only rallied back after they let the beating just go on, and he just stood on his feet wobbling, and they just said, yeah, well, I mean, you're still conscious and your organs haven't totally failed. Let's just keep this going. I mean, here's basically the point. I mean, okay, to me, the major issue is whatever the rules say, they appear to give some latitude to Herb Dean. In fact, you notice there's not a lot of criticism of Dean this time. Most of it is about his corner. Whether or not that's fair, that's just the reality. Like, I'm looking around, that's where most of the energy is being spent examining. And I think the reason for that is because you've got a guy like Calvin Kattar who just sits there and takes an extraordinary amount of abuse. And then, because he can throw a punch or act with intention, we say, well, you know, he's still kind of in it here a little bit.
He also showed defense, and he wasn't getting dropped left and right, Luke. There are reasons why.
You don't have to get dropped to get stopped. Plenty of guys get stopped on their feet, saying, even when they're conscious.
You get dropped, the bat phone starts ringing in Herb Dean's ear, and he's like, okay, I gotta stop.
Right, but the question is that what it takes? That seems to me a very crude way of evaluating fighter health and safety. I mean, here's the point. In the end, there's probably a decent, strict argument to make that Herb was, can make a case that he was following the rules set out in front of him, right? So their question is, should the corner have exacted more mercy? You got to know who your guy is, and you got to know who your guy is fighting. Max Holloway has maybe the best chin in MMA history. You've gone 20 minutes with the guy, and your fighter has taken a literal, and this is not an exaggeration, a historic amount of abuse. You think he's going to go out there in round 5 and put down the guy who's got the best chin in that division by a mile and maybe the best one in the history of the fucking sport? 24 fights in a row, and they can't even sit him down with a punch across 2 different weight classes? It's fucking fantasy. It's total fantasy. You have to know what your guy is capable of, and you have to know what you're up against. He is not going to land some wayward shot on Max and then make him rethink everything. Dustin Poirier landed over 100 strikes on Max and couldn't sit him down, and Dustin Poirier can thump. You think Calvin Kattar can match that? It's just total fantasy. Here is the problem. All they are doing is asking themselves, hey, is this lifeless husk of a man that used to be, the husband and father of children? I don't know if he's got kids or not or whatever, if he's single. But this lifeless husk of a man, can he still robotically throw a punch? Is he still fighting on instinct enough where, and mechanically efficient enough with enough balance there for us to say he's still in it? My answer is, who gives a shit? If you've gone 20 minutes like this and you've taken that amount of damage, to me, you have crossed the line where you're saying, how much damage are you just going to let a guy take in a fight that's 20 minutes? How much are you going to do this? You notice that no one's complaining about the lack of a Kilburn stoppage, the opening fight on that card. And that dude got wild, but he was doing a lot more. Level changing, wrestling. It was only 15 minutes. It wasn't nearly as much. After 20 minutes, how can you look at someone and say, this guy still has a chance? He had no chance. He had no chance other than the opportunity to take more beatings. So this idea that, he threw a punch with coordination that, looked like a professional out there, I don't give a fuck. Who cares?
Well, look,
you have absorbed a kind of damage that can change the trajectory of your life and career. End of argument.
You're making salient points. I'm certainly not arguing the spirit of your argument, which is there's a limit when enough is too much. Yes, that's what I'm saying. We're in the gray area where it could have easily been stopped or not doing it. I'm not here to rail against them because, again, there wasn't that. Look, if he got wobbled by anything around 5, they would have stopped the fight right then. And I think his corner would have agreed with it. His corner was basically like, you almost hit a 10-run home run at the end of that round. Go out there. This is the biggest fight of your life. Go out there and try it one more time. To his credit, he never stopped defending himself. He never stopped firing back. I'm not saying these are reasons to let a man get brain damage. I'm just saying we're already in that gray area. This is the biggest fight of this guy's life. The reason why you don't let a fight, the first fight of the night on the prelims in an empty arena, go to that level is because it's not the damn main event with title implications at stake. So I'm not here to argue that I should tell his family 10 years from now that title implications allowed your husband to take a longer beating. I'm just saying at some point, Luke, and it's always a hard decision to make. When we're talking about boxing or MMA and we're talking about deciding when a fight ends, some percentage of that decision is, I signed up for this. I know the violence that's at stake. If we start to take away too much from what this is, it no longer is what it is. If you know what I'm saying?
The slippery slope of we're going to get to a point where if a guy needs a Band-Aid, we're going to call it off. I mean, you got to be kidding me. After 4 rounds of we're not talking about any old beating, BC.
I think the difference in our argument is this, Luke. If I'm the referee, I probably would have stopped it in round 4 because I'm more of a compassionate, nervous person in this regard. If I'm his trainer, I'm probably going to stop it because me personally, Brian Campbell, more of a compassionate, concerned, worried person in this regard. But I don't think it went over the line where I'm going to come on a microphone here on Monday morning and say that Herb Dean or the corner or the commission or anybody screwed up. It was close to that line, but I think it was still in the strike zone of biggest fight of this guy's life. He showed you life the round before. He never had a bad moment in round 5 where you're like, that's it. Somebody's going to get killed. Stop this.
No, he just had a historically bad moment in round 4
Luke,
that we're
just ignoring. The referee and the corner are not fed this information. Herb Dean's not sitting there going, okay, Max
fed
just
what
landed
information?
the record.
They're looking at the guy up close. Up close, they're looking at him and they're saying, wow, you might have to get staples in your fucking skull when this is over.
Hey, Luke, let's not go too extra dramatic here. Herb Dean doesn't know what the record is for strikes and if we've passed it. Herb Dean only knows did he visibly see enough. And again, if he got dropped or he wobbled or he wasn't defending himself or he wasn't throwing back, the fight would have been stopped.
Dude, if you're defending yourself and you're still getting hit like that, the fight doesn't need to continue. I don't give a shit. That's not the point. The point is, what is a medically dangerous, long-term affecting amount of damage a single fight can offer?
It's dangerous as shit, Luke. This is what this is the sport we cover.
Okay,
it's
fair enough,
dangerous.
fair enough. But there are ways in which you can bring some mercy to it so that it doesn't have to be worse than it already is. That's what I'm saying. If you get knocked out in a single shot, hey man, you fought Francis Ngannou. What are you supposed to do? It's just one punch that sat you down.
Right,
this
let
is what
me
happens.
ask you this.
We're talking 20 minutes at that point. 20 minutes, and he did how much? What did he do to Max? Nothing. He landed a couple of nice right hands and a left check hook once.
But what
You're going to send that guy out there 5 more minutes for fucking what?
What? Well, because they thought their guy could have a home run chance because he showed legitimate life for a window in round 4.
This is what I'm saying every
time. But
time.
hear me out, Luke. I'm not the guy defending that people should be put out there to get killed. I'm saying in this one instance, I don't think anyone did anything criminally wrong. Biggest fight of this guy's life. But answer me this. The great all-time wars, right? Two-way wars. Hendo, Rua won. Ward Gotti's, for the other one,
Jones Gus. Jones Gus is another one.
The Bigfoot against the damn Mark Hunt, won. The Corrales Castillo won. They get to a point where collectively each of them are in their own Calvin Kattar versus Holloway moment. But Luke, do we let that go on because we're in this gray area of this is an all-time great fight? What are you going to do? Stop the fight and go, no. Both of you guys have taken too much damage. It's a draw. No, they let round 5 go on with Hendo and Rua while we're all biting our nails there.
Yeah, because both guys showed a capacity to win. If after 20 minutes you've shown zero capacity to win,
you're not getting my point, Luke.
I get your point.
You're
trying to say, I get your dude. I'm not confused about your point. You're trying to say, well, this is a case where you have not one but two combatants where you're getting.
So we just go. We hope for the best, Luke. We hope for the best in that instance. All I'm saying is they hoped for the best for Kattar, but they would have stopped it if he got into serious trouble in round 5 at any point.
He got into serious trouble into round 4. He got rocked in round 2 as well.
And so did Hendo and Shogun, Luke. But what I'm saying...
Dude, by round 4, what was happening in Hendo Shogun? There were 3 rounds.
Dead.
There were 3 rounds of Shogun.
No.
There were 3 rounds of Shogun getting his ass whipped. And in round 4, he came back out there and put it on Dan Henderson and then did it again in round 5. That is a very different scenario. I'm talking about you've had a championship round go by, 20 minutes in the book, and what do you have to show for yourself? Nothing. You have nothing to show for yourself after 20 minutes. This is my point. I don't think Tyson Chartier is a bad person. I don't think Herb Dean's a bad person. In fact, I respect both of them very, very much. I do agree with you, BC. None of these calls are easy. And when you have a back and forth between two of them where they're both taking damage, you know they're not going to be the same afterwards. This is a very difficult call as well. But my point is, to the extent you can introduce rational mercy into the game, and if it's back and forth, I don't know what the answer is. This was not back and forth. This was not that same call. This was a guy who was let out for another 5 minutes of a beating he did not need to take.
I mean, but again, entering round 5 in Hunt, Bigfoot 1, I thought both guys were going to die, Luke. What I'm saying is there are times in this sport you just bite your nails and it's a gray area and you go for it. Do you think there should be an appointed doctor at ringside that his only job is to sit there and there's a giant red button and if somebody's taking too much and it's getting dangerous, he just hits the button, the fight's over?
No, I don't want a doctor intervening in that way necessarily. But what I've said before, it's an idea that I've had where to be a cornerman, you have to have a license. And the thing that I've picked up on, this is what I mean. Like, dude, Brandon Gibson has my highest respect. And he has talked to me before about fights he wished he would have called that he didn't. He wished he would have thrown in the towel, and he didn't. And then when you talk to people like that, you realize they are humane guys trying to make the best call for all the reasons you articulated, that they love these people. This is a big fight for them, blah, blah, blah. They need the money, whatever it is. But what you find out is the only metric by which they are making that call is, okay, is this person utterly lifeless? No, they have defense in them. They're throwing punches. Let's just send them back out there. My only ask is there should probably be some training around at least getting to think about, dude, what have you done in this fight? Like, what have you done? And how much am I really willing to put this guy through for their future? To really, in that moment, get them to internalize that. Because in boxing corners, you hear them internalize that in that moment. So what I was saying is, if you want a cornerman's license, I would like to see some training around that. Does that solve the problem? I have no fucking idea. But my hope is it makes progress.
I will say this. If this fight was stopped in round 4, we wouldn't have a debate right now if it should have been stopped. And I also think because it didn't get stopped because he never got into hell in round 5, I don't also think it's a debate topic. I think he just entered into hell, Luke, and we bit our nails because it was in that gray area. He had a chance to come back and win the fight. He didn't do it. He also didn't get close to death's doorstep. Everybody survived, Luke. I don't know, Luke. You know, I'm with you on the let's protect the guy's
Spencer Fisher,
future.
after those wars, felt more or less fine when they were over. You know, maybe he had a headache or had to get stitches or whatever. He didn't feel it then. It was only 10 years afterwards. So, you know, this idea like, well, you know, he wasn't on death's door. Okay, well, that's got nothing to do with how bad it could be later on.
Oh, this is going to take away from his long-term life here, Luke. So I guess the spirit of your question originally, should his corner have done more to protect him? Again, if I was them, yes. But they also know that this is this guy's one chance here to try to become a UFC champion. So I'm sure they have conversations, Luke. I'm sure they knew. They gave him that chance. You know?
I mean, you're supposed to take that beating for that paycheck for a non-title fight? That seems like we're asking Calvin Kattar.
I wouldn't let you take that beating, okay? I just at some point there's got to be lines.
Take that beating. But I'm just saying.
The whole point of you and I arguing is there has to be lines in this. I just don't think it went over the line. It was close. I just don't think it went over the line.
I mean, I think it went well past it. But the question is, what is the line and who should draw it?
When the camera's rolling, your heart pounds. It's thrilling to me.